Is the iPhone 12 mini a failure? Is this the biggest iPhone flop we've seen in recent years? According to some recent headlines, yeah, it is. But I think that there's more to this story. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 reasons why the iPhone 12 mini might just be one of the worst selling iPhones that we've seen in a while, and why it's probably all my fault. And it's your fault too. Well, kind of. Let me explain. And a huge thanks to Clean My Mac X for sponsoring this video. Okay, so let me set the record straight that I am not the one calling the iPhone 12 mini a failure. I am just reporting on some of the headlines and some of the analysis that we've seen from credible analysts in the supply chains and the people that are actually monitoring the sales figures of these new iPhones. And if you look at the data that they have, it doesn't look too good for the iPhone 12 mini. There's just no getting around it. According to multiple post-launch reports, the iPhone 12 mini is just not selling nearly as well as the other iPhones launched in 2020. And to kind of give you a quick summary of those reports, basically it comes down to this. The iPhone 12 Pro Max is the fan favorite. It is selling the best of all the new iPhones, followed really neck and neck by the iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro, and in dead last is the beloved iPhone 12 mini. Now, does that mean the iPhone 12 mini is a bad phone? I mean, I've talked before on this channel in multiple videos about how I love the form factor, the screen, the cameras. There's so much to like about this new tiny iPhone, but the data doesn't lie, and I think there's a lot to unpack kind of with the arguments for and against the mini. But first, let me kind of show you the numbers, because I think there's a trend here that we can start to kind of understand. In 2018, most people opted for the largest XS Max, and in 2019, most people opted for the iPhone 11. But in 2020, we're now going back to the Max being the fan favorite, but again, really closely behind are both the iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro, but the 12 mini is just in dead last. And why is that? This was a phone touted by many to be a breakthrough from Apple. So many people were so excited to see Apple launch a new flagship tiny iPhone. Why is this phone just not selling well if everyone was so excited to get their hands on it? And I'm going to attempt to kind of break down the reasons here from the best that I can understand it. And I think the first reason is really the features that it's missing and what it's lacking. This year was different for Apple in many different ways, but remember that these iPhones all launched at different times than they usually do. There was a staggered launch, a different kind of announcement, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max is undoubtedly the superior phone. It has a larger physical sensor. It's got the largest battery, the biggest screen. There is a lot of things that the iPhone 12 Pro Max that the other iPhones just lack. And maybe that's a reason why people started to kind of gravitate towards the 12 Pro Max and why it's selling so well, is because it has features that the other iPhones just don't have. And I think kind of a secondary reason here is that I think a lot of people just like larger screen iPhones. I know my parents, who are probably watching this video right now with you guys, they really prefer the largest screen on an iPhone possible. Same for my grandparents and relatives. Most people I know tend to go with the Max version because they want the largest screen possible. And I think now, as times have changed and more people are staying home, they don't really value portability maybe as much as they did in the past. Maybe they kind of like having a larger screen iPhone. Maybe they don't really need to have something super pocketable and portable. Maybe more people see the value in the larger screen iPhone than they did in the past. Times are changing, 2020 is here, and the Pro Max just has a lot of great things, that big, beautiful OLED screen included. But one really important point that I think a lot of people overlook and kind of skim past when they look at this data is the time range in which this data was captured. For example, this data here from Flurry Analytics, it was captured during the launch week of these phones, which is a very particular time, which does give a lot of insight into sales figures, but also kind of skews it a bit, because if you think about it, who is the kind of person buying these phones during launch week? Typically, that would be someone like me or you who is an enthusiast who's been waiting all year for the latest and greatest from Apple. These are people that are going to stay up and pre-order these phones, that are going to go into the stores on launch day to get these devices. The type of person that buys a phone during launch week is a different person than probably the average consumer and the average customer walking into the store some random day to buy a new phone or upgrade a phone on their plan. And I know that I can't speak for anyone, but I can say, as a longtime Apple enthusiast who always gets a phone on launch week, typically I am a little irrational. I want the latest and greatest. I want the best feature set. I want whatever the best that Apple can produce from an iPhone. That's what I'm going to gravitate towards. And I think that is the case for the figures we're seeing here. Most people who are going to buy an iPhone on launch week want the latest and greatest, and that means this year you're going towards the 12 Pro Max. You want the larger sensor, you want the telephoto camera, you want all the great things that the Pro Max has that the others don't. I think a lot of people will also gravitate towards the 12 Pro as well, and even maybe the 12, but there's definitely a shift of many people going up to those top tier phones, especially during launch week, that you probably won't see as much as the phone is out for a little longer, more promotions, more deals are had. I think as the average person continues to upgrade their phone and buy their phone, that data might skew a little bit more towards the Pro Max down to the 12. So let me take a quick break from sort of the doom and gloom of the iPhone 12 mini to tell you a quick story about this iMac behind me. Now, I was kind of sad to learn that Apple now considers this iMac vintage and obsolete because I spent a lot of money on it and I still want it to run as fast and as smooth as possible. And to do that, I'm using the tool from this video sponsor, Clean My Mac X. Now, if you have not heard of Clean My Mac X, it is the one app you need on your Mac to keep your machine running safe, secure, super speedy, and well optimized, and to kind of keep it running like it's fresh and new right out of the box, even if it's a couple years old. First things first, I'm running a smart scan, which is gonna do 3 crucial things. It's gonna find and clear out all the cache files, the log files, all the junk that has just kind of seemed to build up on my Mac over the years and that's taking up space. And next, it's going to scan my Mac and remove any malware, any viruses, any security threats, and make sure my Mac is safe and secure. And lastly, it's gonna give me some optimization settings and some tips to keep my Mac running at optimal performance. Smart Scan is probably one of my favorite features, but there are so many other tools and features packed into Clean My Mac X that really give you the power and control over every aspect of your Mac. I really appreciate all of the options here under the Maintenance tab. Here I can do things like flush the DNS cache, I can repair disk permissions. You've got a lot of powerful options here that you can do with just a couple of clicks, no having to mess with any kind of hidden terminal commands. You also can see all the apps you have on your Mac, and you can uninstall one app or multiple apps with just a couple of clicks. It's as easy as that. So whether you want to breathe new life into an older Mac or keep your current Mac running safe, secure, and well optimized, and just kind of keep all your Macs feeling like they're fresh and new out of the box, I highly recommend you check out Clean My Mac X. Learn more and download it today for yourself at the link right down below. Another point that I think a lot of people don't really want to acknowledge, but I think it might be true, is that maybe the demand for these small iPhones just isn't what we thought it was. There is a vocal group of people who have long been asking Apple to make smaller iPhones. They don't want to compromise on features, they want an OLED display, they want the cameras, but they want a physically smaller phone. And now Apple has delivered on that promise. They made the 12 mini, which I think is a great thing for many people, and many people, again, are excited to buy this device. But maybe it's just not enough people. Maybe the market for this phone is not what Apple expected or what Apple had hoped it would be, and it's just not enough to keep a 12 mini alive with R&D costs, marketing costs. There's a lot of money that goes into just making this phone and getting it out onto store shelves or to, I guess, warehouses these days to be shipped out and off to customers. We have to remember, though, that Apple never does things lightly. Obviously, there was a great deal of money in research and time, and a lot of, I'm sure, reports and analysis, and a lot of stuff was done to make sure that this was a worthwhile investment for them. But again, there's also a reason why they made the 10R and the 11. Those were 6.1-inch displays. One was LCD, one was LCD as well. Then this year with the 12, you have OLED. But there's a reason I think Apple is sticking to that screen size. Obviously, they've done enough research and talked to enough customers to know that 6.1 is kind of like the Goldilocks for most people. It's not too big, like the Max. It's not too small, like the Mini, but maybe it's just right. And maybe the 6.1-inch screen size is just the perfect size for most people. Maybe people just don't want to downgrade to a smaller phone. Maybe that's just too small, and maybe 6.1 was just the perfect size all along, and that's really where Apple should kind of concentrate their efforts for the average consumer. But what I think this really comes down to, at the end of the day, is a story all about price. For about $700 MSRP, give or take, promotions and deals, this is still an expensive phone. It's a lot of money to spend on a phone, no matter how great it might be. And when someone walks into a carrier store and sees the monthly breakdown or the full pop price of this phone, they might be a little bit more willing to go one way or the other. Maybe they're looking to go down a little bit and they want to save some money, and that's just too much money to spend per month or at one point on one phone. Or maybe they're kind of going up a little bit. Maybe they're saying the differences between the 12 mini and the 12, and okay, for $100, full price, I could upgrade and get a bigger battery and a bigger screen. Or maybe if I spend a little bit more money or a couple extra bucks a month, I can go up to the 12 Pro and get an extra lens and some other features. I'm not an average consumer, and I'm not going to pretend to be, so I don't really know what the average person would think in that situation. It's probably going to depend on a lot of different factors, but I think price tells a very big story with the 12 mini and its current success. It's still a very expensive phone, and I'm sure that as promotions happen with carriers and different deals, the 12 mini will start to move more the cheaper it gets. Also, though, remember that Apple already kind of introduced a brand new small iPhone this year. The version 2 of iPhone SE launched back in March, and you could argue whether or not that phone is successful because it's a cheap phone or it's successful because it's a small phone, but you can't argue with the fact that a lot of people really like that phone, and a lot of people who bought that phone don't want to now sell it and turn around and buy a new smaller iPhone 12 mini. Or maybe a lot of people are looking at the price difference, $700 for this, $400 for the SE, and again, there are deals and other things that factor into it, and the SE just seems like a better buy because they don't really need some of the higher end features you get on this phone. Despite as cool as they might be and how superior this could be on paper, when it comes down to it, it's all about money, and the SE is just a better value. At the end of the day, I think we can all acknowledge the fact that we're all happy that Apple is giving us more choices than we've ever had before. They're now competing at the high end, kind of the mid-range, and the low end now with the iPhone SE, and that's great. And I know that many people, again, really wanted Apple to make a small flagship iPhone, and here it is, the 12 mini. And for those people who bought it, I know many people really, really love this phone. So what are your thoughts on the iPhone 12 mini? Is this just a flop? Is this just selling weaker than Apple anticipated? And do you think Apple just needs to cut their losses and not develop any more mini iPhones? Or do you think this is a scenario where time and patience are going to pay out? Those are going to be very worthwhile, and that the longer this phone is out and the more deals that occur on it, the better it's going to sell. And are you interested in a mini, or are you going Pro or Pro Max? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Robert Rosenfeld from the Apple Circle, and I'll see you in the next one.